Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about some really interesting news that has to do with Anthropic. They've been doing some really big stuff, raising money and building new products, making new partnerships. We're going to get into all of it, including some partnerships with Palantir, AWS, and some contingent money. We'll talk about the contingencies with Amazon. So let's get into all of it. Before we do, I wanted to mention, if you haven't already joined the waitlist for my AI startup, AI Box, we are launching a new product very shortly, and you can get on the waitlist at aibox.ai, a really cool new AI playground that's going to completely change the game. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the description, and I would love to see you on the waitlist. So let's get into the podcast today. So the first news is Amazon or AWS or Anthropic, is raising money, and they've been talking with a bunch of people about this $40 billion valuation. We've had the information kind of break that that's like the valuation that they're raising money at. Now, it wasn't exactly clear who they were raising from and how much they were raising from. It appears that they are going back to a trusted investor, Amazon, who previously has done some of their biggest investments. Amazon and AWS about a year ago, essentially invested $4 billion, but it wasn't just all at once. It was kind of depending on certain benchmarks and different things. They would unlock certain amounts of money, but the overall package was up to $4 billion. So that's one of their biggest investors, and they looks like they have gone back to Amazon for kind of this big deal. But there is a contingency, and that is that they are only going to be making this investment if Anthropic is using Amazon-developed silicone, which is, of course, hosted over on AWS, to train their AI models. Now, Anthropic and a lot of the other AI companies have traditionally preferred using NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA is making some of the, most cutting-edge advanced chips that are the fastest, best, etc. But Amazon obviously is trying to break into this space, right? They have a huge captive audience with AWS, and if they could crack into what NVIDIA has been doing with all of their their H100s, 200s, whatever, all the NVIDIA GPUs, and all the money that NVIDIA is making from companies training AI, they could really boost the bottom line. So this would make a big difference. Now, the problem is it's really hard for, when there's kind of a clear winner, NVIDIA, in this space, it's hard to convince all these AI companies to come over. So if they could get Anthropic as kind of their, signature anchor customer, being like, hey, look, one of, the second biggest AI company out there right now is essentially using us, that's going to be a really big boost for Amazon. So it seems like this is the deal, because Anthropic right now, they're projected to burn through about $2.7 billion this year, just as they're scaling, they're training all their AI products. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can close this $40 billion. To date, Anthropic has raised $9.7 billion, but that's a little bit misleading because, a couple billion of that is actually in investments that AWS and Amazon are going to make in the future as part of their original $4 billion package. So really, I think cash that they've taken in is a little over $7 billion. Now, this is only about half of OpenAI's total they've raised collectively. So there's a lot of competition. All right, let's get into the next thing that Anthropic is doing, and that is that they are partnering with Palantir to do AI for the defense industry. So this is kind of something that's been kind of controversial with a lot of Silicon Valley startups. Google famously had a moment where they withdrew from all of their contracts with the US government, over essentially a lot of their employees not wanting to work with the Department of Defense. And it's kind of an interesting thing that's been controversial. There's been a lot of companies lately that have kind of made it a little bit more popular or trending. Specifically, Palmer Luckey over at Anduril has made this kind of, he kind of just framed this as a patriotic thing to work with the United States government if you're a US-based company and help defend against foreign adversaries, talking about, the need to work with the defense. And it feels like we've seen an overall trend towards this from a lot of industries after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and seeing how, there's a lot of our allies and people that we're closely allied with that we would like to help support. And, you definitely don't want to have the weakest military because our tech and our innovation from our country isn't backing our defense. So anyways, there's all of that. But in any case, Anthropic is now jumping into it specifically to provide US intelligence and defense agencies the Claude AI models. What's interesting about this is like Palantir, has a really impressive AI kind of hub where defense people can go on. There's a lot of different features and tools, but like one demo I've seen that's really interesting is essentially it's kind of like a critical risk and battle management sort of thing where you hop on there and it knows based off of all of the sensors and tech and intel how many tanks and how many where the other opposing armies and forces are and what the landscape is all around it, and you kind of see it pulled up on a map, and you say, hey, like these troops are moving this way based off of this direction, what's the best thing for us to do. Now, what's interesting is I'm assuming that Anthropic can power a lot of the maybe not the reasoning, but a lot of the they'll have a custom in-house AI that can do a lot of that, I would presume, but it can power a lot of the responses. It can power a lot of the tools that they're already using. So I'm assuming they're going to be plugging Anthropic and Claude into a kind of existing tools that are already there instead of using something like, ChatGPT or maybe open source models. And we actually have Meta that has recently announced they are also going to be working with the Department of Defense and providing their AI models for kind of defense uses as well, which is interesting because they're open source. And I guess just diving one click deeper into that, it's been rumored that China's army is actually already using Meta's open source tools to power some of what they're doing with their departments, their defense. So it's really interesting. And this is kind of the big thing that a lot of people have been sounding the alarm bells on, is if our foreign adversaries are using USA built tech. Obviously, there's a lot of Chinese LLMs as well, so I'm not sure. Meta isn't like the most powerful right now. It seems to be OpenAI that's still leading the way. But anyways, there's definitely that conversation and that discussion, but also it's like, can you actually stop them from using AI? So anyways, lots of conversations around that, but it would appear like the trend in the industry is that we're moving towards more AI companies working with the defense industry. So this is what Jensen said about all of this. He said, we're proud to be at the forefront of bringing responsible AI solutions to U.S. classified environments, enhancing analytical capabilities and operational efficiencies in vital government operations. Access to Claude within Palantir on AWS will equip U.S. defense and intelligence organizations with powerful AI tools that can rapidly process and analyze vast amounts of complex data. This will dramatically improve intelligence analysis and enable officials in their decision-making processes, streamlining resource-intensive tasks, and boost operational efficiencies across departments. Okay, this is interesting, and this is actually like a trend we've been seeing for a while. So just this summer, Anthropic, they brought all of their Claude models to AWS's Gov Cloud, right? So this is just for the government. And this was a lot of people just felt like this was them kind of signaling that they wanted to expand their public sector client base. Because, yeah, essentially Cloud Gov is AWS's service designed for the US government and all of their kind of cloud workloads and all that. So this is really interesting. I'm excited to see where this goes. I think there's going to be a lot of competition here, as I mentioned, with Meta already jumping into this. This to me seems like a real big game changer, having a big company like Anthropic that's so focused on trust and safety getting into this space with the US government, specifically in defense. So I feel like it could be something that kind of turns the tides on this trend of these AI companies and these tech companies working more and more with the US government. And obviously there's a lot of money there, but also, a lot of people say this is the patriotic duty of these companies to help, the government in the country that they are based out of. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens, and I'll definitely keep you up to date on everything happening in the defense and in AI and all of the latest news coming out of Anthropic. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. If you enjoyed it, honestly, it would really mean a lot to me if you could leave the podcast a review. I appreciate those so much, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.